Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Afiqah Binti Rosman and my metric number 1221880. Today, I would like to talk about a topic that is both historical and still relevant until today, which is the negative impact of Orientalism on Muslims in Malaysia. This presentation will cover four main aspects, which is religion, education, culture and politics. So, what is Orientalism? Orientalism is a concept that refers to how the Western world, especially during the colonial period, viewed and treated the Eastern world, including Muslim societies. It is more than just a way of thinking, it was also a political tool used by the West to dominate, stereotype and reshape Eastern societies, often to justify colonization and Western superiority. In terms of religion, Orientalism weakened the role of Islam in governance and public life. When the British colonized Malaya, they interfered directly in Islamic affairs. For example, the Pangkor Treaty of 1874 allowed the British to gain administrative power, while reducing the influence of Islam to only personal matters like marriage and inheritance. The sultans were recognized as religious leaders, but their political power was stripped away. The civil courts, based on English law, became dominant, and in many cases, Sharia court decisions were overruled by civil court judgment. Furthermore, Orientalist scholars often describe Islam as a backward and violent religion. They believe that Islamic teachings were outdated and not suitable for modern life. According to Edward Said, Islam was viewed as a desert religion shaped by the harsh climate of the Middle East and therefore associated with aggression and irrationality. This stereotype led to the rejection of Islam as a way of life and a legal system. Instead, Western secular values were promoted as more civilized and reasonable. In terms of culture, Orientalist views also misrepresented Malay Muslim culture. Scholars like Winston emphasize Hindu-Buddhist elements in Malay society and downplay the Islamic influence. He even claimed that Islam hindered progress in the Malay world. This portrayal caused Malays to be seen as primitive, lazy and resistant to change. For example, Frank Swettenham described Malays as lazy and disinterested in hard work. Isabella Bird criticized the way Malays ate with their hands, calling it dirty. Without understanding the cultural and religious values behind the practice, these Orientalist views created a sense of cultural alienation among Malays, making them feel that their traditions were inferior compared to Western norms. Now, let's move to education. During British colonial rule, the education system in Malaya was drastically changed. The British introduced a secular education system that separated religious knowledge from formal schooling. Subjects like mathematics and science were prioritized, while Islamic studies were sidelined. This caused many Muslim students to grow up without strong foundations in religious knowledge or values. One of the most damaging impacts was the removal of the Jawi script. Jawi had long been the medium for teaching Islamic knowledge and Malay culture. By replacing it with the Roman alphabet or Rumi, the British weakened the role of Islamic education and disconnected younger generations from their religious heritage. This shift created a dual education system, one secular seen as modern and practical and one religious seen as outdated. As a result, Islamic education was marginalized and the balance between spiritual and worldly knowledge was lost. In short, Orientalism influenced education by undermining Islamic learning, erasing traditional systems, and promoting a Western model that reshaped the identity of Muslim Malays. Lastly, Orientalism also reshaped the political landscape. During British colonization, the Western powers promote secularism and view Islamic governance as outdated and incompatible with modern state systems. Islam was portrayed as emotional and irrational, while Western political models based on liberal democracy and secular law were considered more logical and progressive. This approach slowly marginalized the role of Islam in political leadership. Traditional systems that once integrated religion and governance were either dismantled or weakened. The Malay rulers were retained as symbols, but their authority in political decision-making was significantly reduced. As a result, the Malays were encouraged to adopt Western political structure, often at the cost of their religious and cultural values. This led to a deep identity conflict how to modernize without abandoning Islamic principles. We can still see the impact today in the dualism of Malaysia's political system. On one hand, we have Islamic-based parties like PAS, which advocate for hudud laws and Islamic governance. On the other hand, we have parties like UMNO and ADP, which operate within a secular framework and emphasize constitutional democracy and national unity. This ongoing tension between Islamic ideals and secular politics is a direct result of Orientalist influence, which introduced foreign concepts while sidelining local traditions. It has left the country with a political system where two ideologies coexist, but not always in harmony. In conclusion, Orientalism has left a deep and lasting impact on Muslims in Malaysia. It disrupted religious authority, distorted cultural identity, divided education, and reshaped political systems. Even today, we continue to face the consequences in how Islam is practiced, how it is perceived, and how Malaysians relate to their identity. It is important for us, especially the younger generation, to understand these historical forces. Only then can we begin to reclaim our narrative, preserve our values, and move forward with confidence in our Islamic heritage.